Hello and welcome to Hamalon 5. What on earth is that, I hear you ask? It is going to be a watch along of Babylon 5, which I will be doing, watching the episode and then immediately after it, recording a reaction to that. So, effectively, a reaction video for this incredibly old sci-fi television series. Babylon 5? What the hell are you doing now? I thought you couldn't stand it. You've been spending the last 4 years ripping it in every podcast that you do. Well, that's the point. Because I know a lot of people that like this show, that think it is the best science fiction television show of all time. Some people that are sane and some people that are completely crazy. And I want to educate myself. I don't really know anything about the show at all. I've kind of watched the odd episode and had no clue what was going on. At the time, I thought it was looked remarkably cheap. The CGI looked a bit ropey. But I just couldn't understand because it was somewhere in the middle of the show and I didn't have a clue. And frankly, all of that knowledge has fallen out of my head. So I'm coming into this utterly fresh with no serious expectations than that I know that this is where long form storytelling started really effectively in televisual science fiction. That JMS made a big name for himself with this show. And yeah, and that somewhere around the middle seasons it reached its peak, and that possibly series one and series five are weaker points in the show. um, that's all I know, really. Yeah. So this is not going to be an incredibly expensive affair. It will literally be me talking into a camera, probably quite excitedly every time the episode ends, whether I love it or hate it. But yeah, I kind of wanted to document the journey. And just to see whether this sort of thing could take off. Originally, I was going to do a reaction video, and I tried that with the first episode, and I didn't like it at all. I didn't enjoy doing it. I felt as if I was sort of putting it on all the time. So instead, you'll just get a very natural 5, 6, 7 minute reaction video at the end of each episode. And if you're new to Babylon 5, let's go on this journey together. If you're old to Babylon 5, I hope you get some enjoyment in the reactions. These things seem to be popular. So let's see how we do. Yeah, so let's dive headfirst into episode 1. Okay, so that was Babylon 5, season 1, episode 1. I thought that was pretty good, actually. Yeah, it achieved a great deal very fast. It managed to set up the Narn Centauri conflict. It had a lot of sort of action and spectacle and scale to it. It established what the space station was all about. It sort of painted out in broad colours who the regulars are: Ivanova, Garibaldi, Commander Sinclair, Delenn, Shakar, Londo. But you know what it did? I thought was really impressive is, when you start like a Star Trek show and every character gets like a moment, of like an introductory moment where that character is being introduced as the new crew member to the audience. This didn't do that. It just sort of a story took place and the characters were in the story and you just had to keep up. So something a big event happened at the start, and then we're just watching everybody's reactions to that event, and you're sort of swept along and you get to know them as that story takes you along. And I think that's sort of confident to hope, or is trusting the audience to have, a brain to be able to keep up without having a moment that says, here's this character, this is what they do, this is what they're all about, and just have a story play out with the characters in it. I really, really like that. The CGI did not trip me up as much as I thought it would, actually. And I think it does give a sense of scale and dynamism to the show. And it's aided brilliantly by the music. I'm going to do some research as to who did the music on this, or perhaps someone could tell me in the comments below something about the music for Babylon 5. But that was great, like real punch, energy, dynamism in those action scenes. I was humming along to it, and I've never heard this music before in my life. Um, if I was to watch this as a pilot, the question I always ask myself is, would I watch the next episode? It had involving characters. It had an interesting plot, kind of a simple resolution to that plot, I thought, but sort of politically interesting. It felt like it was gearing up for like a big battle, and then it's just like, you know what, your people have been doing something naughty, so you better tell them to stand down, and they did. Yeah, I would definitely go on and watch the next episode. As a scene setter, I think it has the confidence to just tell a good story rather than to tell an introductory story. Now, from what I'm told, Babylon 5, this is definitely season one is like chapter one of Babylon 5 of the overarching story. But as a sort of kick out the gate, I'm impressed. Yeah, let's see what episode two brings. Okay, so I've just watched Soul Hunter, season one, episode two. I thought it was pretty good, actually. A lot less ambitious than the first one, and I think probably as close to a standalone as you're going to get with Babylon 5, which I hear is very interlinked later on. That was a very sort of simple story. The ship came out of hyperspace, whatever it is, almost collides with the station. They take the Soul Hunter on board. Delenn recognizes him, tries to kill him in a wonderful scene. Um, then he wakes up, we see proof of what he does, which is senses death and captures souls. All leading up to the finale where he realizes that she is one of the Grey Council, whatever the Grey Council is, a council that's very grey, I presume. Um, no, she's somebody very, very important who's slumming it on Babylon 5 as an ambassador. One of the maybe the one of the ruling elite or something like that. I'm sure we'll find out more as we go along. And so he comes for a soul, straps her down. Women being tortured. It's never a good look, Babylon 5. Don't do it again. And yeah, and then she's saved by Commander Sinclair, and the Soul Hunter is expires with a lot of sort of bubbles going around him. It was a very simple story. What impressed me most was two performances. Morgan Shepherd as the Soul Hunter doing that wonderful thing that guest actors do on all of these sort of cult TV shows is one shot guest roles. I'm assuming it's one shot. Comes in with absolute sincerity and gravity and not playing it up at all. And this character is real and he's dangerous, and and he's got history. Yeah, really impressive, gravelly English voice, so he's declaring everything very seriously but compellingly. But more importantly than that, where the hell was Myra Furlan in episode one? My God, an intensity there, like absolutely just burst alive in episode two. I barely noticed her in the pilot episode. Yeah, amazingly good. I think I'm gonna see some interesting things from her to come as well. Anything else stand out from this? I don't know. What was Londo in this? My favourite. I didn't think he turned up at all. I didn't see Jakar either. I hope this is not what's happening in series one. All right, I want them in every episode. They're my absolute favourites. And already the aliens. Yeah, look at that. Londo, Jakar, Delenn. Already the aliens are my favourite characters. Any complaints? Michael O'Hare as Sinclair, does he want to be there? Because he does seem to be half-arsedly playing that role. There's not a lot of oomph to him, Like, hop over to Star Trek and you got, Kate Mulgrew giving it her odd, Avery Brooks saying everything, declaring everything, or, Captain Kirk, who, I don't know, they're all like impossible to take your eyes off. And yeah, Sinclair is a bit boring, especially compared to all these fabulous alien characters as well. I did think the sets in this were lit more dramatically, and I was getting more of a sense of where places were in Babylon 5. The pilot had to do a lot, right? The first episode had to set up a ton of political stuff and the station and try and get us acquainted with all those characters. Whereas this sort of just focus, it was just a simple character tale taking place on Babylon 5, where we could sort of relax and go to the different environments. So I thought that was good. The CG is still impressing me. I've been having a bit of a debate with my friend Fraser because I do think the scope and the detail in the CG is really impressive, especially for the time. But I'm watching a HD render and the special effects are yeah, it's a little bit fuzzy. You know, the planets are a bit fuzzy and it's a bit cartoony as well in places. Like I still really admire what they're attempting to do. I just think if you put it in front of anybody today, they would look at this and go, "Well, when was this made? 1960?" You know. But huge ambition, and I think that's absolutely, effects come on more than anything. So if this went on for 5 years, I can't wait to see where we are in Series 5 because already it's doing interesting things visually. Far more sophisticated than I feel like the model work on Star Trek looks great, but it's not going into airlocks, and it's not showing ships climbing down out of the state and things like that. Like it's there's a bit more dynamism to this, I think, which I really really like, and the music is still fantastic. I did a bit of reading on is it Christopher Frank? Yeah, really, really great music. I can only imagine as things get, bigger in scale and we have big battles and things like this, that music is just gonna soar. So yeah, given this is supposed to be the weakest season, I thought the first episode was really great and the second episode was pretty good. So I'm not seeing a dud yet. Let's see what happens with episode 3. Okay, so I've just watched series 1, episode 3, Born to the Purple, and that was the best episode so far by a country mile. I mean, it started off with tons and tons of Londo and Jakar, becomes a massive Londo episode. God, that character is brilliant, isn't he? Like the actor, Peter Jurassic, is so good. I mean, he's got like charisma in bucket loads. And I mean, he's wearing that absurd wig, which looks a bit like my hair right now. And he's got that horrible mole on his face. And he's clearly sort of a mature man. And he gets this wonderful episode where he gets to be a romantic hero, risking his status, his career, and everything for this woman that he's fallen head over heels with. And what I figured was going to happen early on, he's in a bar watching this girl dance and blowing her kisses and all of this. And I thought, oh no, he's going to be a total sleazebag. We cut to his quarters and he shuts the doors. I'm like, what are we doing all of this? And then it turns out he has genuine feelings and affection for her. And then even at the end, after she's tried to steal all the information, the Centauri intelligence information, he's risking his career to save her and at the end he says, be with me, stay here. And she goes, no, I've got to go, I'll be safer if I go. And he's like, well, come back to me one day. And it was so wonderful. It meant beneath the bluster and all of that personality, like he's got a beating heart. Man, oh man, I loved him in episode 1. I adored him in episode 3. Amazingly good. And with Londo means you get scenes with Jakar. So there's the negotiating. I couldn't quite figure out what they were negotiating over, if I'm honest. And it doesn't really matter. Halfway through the episode, whilst Londo is sort of distracted with his romantic life, he sends Via to do the negotiations, and Jakar, in appalled, goes, "Well, that's it. My underling will do the negotiations," and both of them say to their underlings, "Don't give away the home planet," which is very funny. Yeah, it's really the character work already. We're 3 episodes in, and the character work is already it feels fully formed and the actors feel super relaxed in their roles to a point where they're giving sort of strong comedic performances. I think Peter First, is it Peter First as Via? is so funny. I mean, he's doing everything but eye rolling the whole time. But he's so funny. I hope he gets more to do, you know. He's the sort of Rom character from DS9, and Rom came out of Quark Shadows after a while and, you know, became a very important character in his own right. And I'm hoping Veer gets to do the same because he's great. Um, the story itself, yeah, it was like your traditional, you know, man falls in love with woman, finds out woman is bad news, but it's actually quite good, really. Um, man gets her back because the underlying thing here is that whoever she's working for wants to steal the Centauri secrets and give them to the non, you know, for profit, and that's not particularly interesting. That's going to come back up later. What I love though is we get to see more parts of the station as well. So we have a romantic meal in that fabulous restaurant, which has got it's like in the heart of Babylon 5, the most expensive restaurant on Babylon 5. So I hope we go there a bit more. Um, any issues with this one? Very few, really. Uh, they've spent a lot of money in episode one, and I can feel the cheapness of sort of the laser effects. And some of the sets are like, you know, TNG sets. They're thin walls, shall we say, and strip lighting. But you just got to sort of go with it, I think. With this sort of show, you go with the aesthetic, you go with whatever money they had. And if you're invested in the characters and the story, I guess you just put on the blinders, you know, and just enjoy the atmosphere of the place. What I love about Babylon 5, it's a bit grungy, you know, it's a bit dirty. Um, it's got this, you know, seedy bar with these sort of striptease girls coming out and that. And yeah, the sort of marketplace where there's all these dodgy deals going on with the insect man, who is very cool, by the way. I mean, it's a pretty shit costume, but it's a great idea. And oh, even Commander Sinclair got to have fun in this episode where he went into the bar and sort of swaggered, you know, and laughed his head off and got to do dodgy deals. Yeah, even he's having fun. I'm still not entirely sold on the actor, but it's nice to see him loosen up a bit. I think the only characters that I'm really unconvinced by at the moment are Talia Winters, who's sort of on the periphery of everything and hasn't really had any great focus. So I'm hoping she gets a lot more to do later. Garibaldi is just super. He's so broad. He's just sort of like this jock security guard. And yeah, the performance is a bit made for TV movie. So I don't know. Maybe they'll do terrible things to him later, and I'll start to like him. And weirdly enough, Claudia Christian, she's a bit one note at this point, and I know she can deliver good work because I've heard her elsewhere do audio dramas and things like that. But at them, there was a scene with her dad in this, where her dad, you know, said, "I always loved you, but I was never a good parent," which came out of absolutely nowhere and had nothing to do with the episode at large. And I'm assuming on a show which is sort of chapters of a novel, we're going to get a lot of that sort of rando scenes in episodes that pay off later on. So maybe that is going to pay off later on, but we'll see. Yeah, so those three characters I'm a bit iffy with, but all the aliens still. I mean, this is Londo centric, so this is a enormous winner. It had huge heart. It was very funny in places, and yeah, it just rollopped along. I really enjoyed this. I didn't think I would be this positive this early on in the run. So yeah, born in the purple zone, a winner. Let's go see what episode four's got.